And as Bill Belichick once said, we are on to Cincinnati. Welcome to the Wildcast podcast. I'm Justin Spears here with Michael Lev talking Arizona-Cincinnati football. Big time game Saturday morning at Nippert Stadium. And big game for both programs. I mean, both programs, Arizona just doesn't want to be a bowl eligible team, right? They want to sprint through the finish line as they approach the fourth quarter of the season. And then Cincinnati, they've got their eyes on that Big 12 championship game. And in order to get to that spot, you got to beat the Arizona Wildcats first on Saturday before that big one next week against BYU. We'll be talking all things Arizona versus Cincinnati. And then later on in the podcast, per usual, our good friend Jordan Hamm from Sports 360 AZ will be hopping on for Big 12 Bonanza, which has really become a very interesting race now. I am stumbling myself. I told you guys last week, I'm like the Cliff Kingsbury of this thing, where I have a very strong first half of the season. And then the second half, I am just plummeting. So let's see if I can get back on the winning track, because right now it's a very tight race, no?
Thank you for doing that, Justin.
You're absolutely
letting
welcome.
us back into the race.
It's a season of giving.
Yeah, we're all under 500 against the spread now. So mediocrity might even be like an overstatement for how bad we've been collectively. But we'll get into all those details a little bit later. First, want to focus on this Cincinnati matchup. Arizona is an underdog by 6.5 points. The line is held kind of steady. I think it might have opened at 4.5, gone up a little bit. When you look at the statistical profile of the Bearcats, they're impressive, right? I mean, number one in the Big 12 in yards per play, 7.3 yards. Like, if you're ahead of Texas Tech in any category, that's something, okay? Absolutely. And they're number one in yards per carry, number one in yards per attempt. So there's a lot of big play potential, and they also, don't have a lot of negative plays. Like 2 interceptions thrown all season, 2 sacks allowed. These are both the lowest totals in the conference. The sacks are the lowest in the country. So how do you affect this Cincinnati offense? How do you slow them down?
Well, first of all, you got to get to the quarterback first and foremost. But here's the thing. Is Arizona's defense really about getting to the quarterback with the defensive linemen, right? They can, figure out ways to get in the backfield with their linebackers, guys like Riley Wilson and Chase Kennedy. I think Tay Brown has really been impressive lately. But, I mean, Cincinnati has a solid offensive line. I think their running backs are really good too. And like you said, Lev, it's just when you look across the board, they're just strong in a lot of categories. Now, as far as defensively, they're kind of near the bottom towards the Big 12. So maybe if, you're better, you take the over in this game, considering, Arizona's high-powered offense comes into this, and now they're going up against Cincinnati. But as far as like slowing down the Bearcats, this is where I think we're really going to see, Danny Gonzalez pull out all the stops. And we'll see if this team has learned from their mistakes, because this offense is probably it's different than Iowa State in the sense that, because the Cyclones, they use a lot of tight ends. They have really good tight ends. Cincinnati has a really good tight end in Joe Royer, who's just a freak of nature. I mean, he is all of 6'5", 250 pounds, and he's going to be a handful for Arizona. But Iowa State had like an abundance of tight ends. They had a lot of guys that they could lean on, where Cincinnati, they have a really good tight end in Joe Royer. They also have a really good wide receiver in Cyrus Allen, who leads the Big 12 in touchdown catches this year with 10. And then they have a nice 1-2 combo in the backfield in Tawi Walker and Evan Pryor. Those guys are banged up, though. I'm curious to see just how healthy both of them are in this game. But then you have Brendan Sorsby, who's only thrown 2 interceptions this year, and he's 6'3", 235 pounds. Like, you thought Bear Bachmeier was a handful. Well, imagine Bear Bachmeier just a couple years older. Like, I look at it almost like I don't know how familiar you are with Pokemon, Lev.
Not very, but go ahead.
There's a Charmander and a Charizard. Charmander's the baby version of Charizard. Arizona's going up against Charizard this week in Brendan Sorsby, who's only a junior too. Like he could still come back for another year and really stamp his legacy as maybe the greatest quarterback to play for the Bearcats. So Arizona, they have their hands full. And I can imagine that 2 weeks off for Cincinnati, they were probably like, okay, let's game plan against Arizona. Sorsby, QB power. You are going to have maybe the most rushing yards you have ever had, maybe this season, maybe during your entire time at Cincinnati. And so I think if they can stop Sorsby's legs, they'll be in a really good position. I think it also, too, if they can continue to make plays at the line of scrimmage and stop the running backs, but easier said than done. And that's really been a problem for Arizona's defense over the last several weeks. So as far as like winning this game, Lev, like I'm not going to say that the Wildcats are going to win. I do think they'll keep it competitive, but I agree with Brent Brennan and company. I don't think it's coach speak. I really do think that, this is maybe the best team that they have faced this year. BYU is certainly a really good team, but considering they're on the road playing against a team like Cincinnati that's coming off a bye week, this is going to be a really big test.
Brendan Sorsby already has more rushing yards this year than he had last year. He has 453 rushing yards through 9 games. So that's an average of about 50 per game.
Yeah.
We know that Arizona has had trouble with QB power against BYU, and then Houston just kind of copied their game plan. And I would be very surprised if Cincinnati didn't basically do the same. So the question becomes, can you stop that enough to put the Bearcats in 3rd and long situations? Okay. Utah was able to do a pretty good job of that, and they pressured the crap out of Brendan Sorsby in their last game. They had a 42.9% pressure rate, which is pretty high, right? And if you're an offense, you'd like that number to be around 20%, not around 40%. And Sorsby was just 4 of 14 when he was pressured. Utah also blitzed him, and this number is just nuts, but I have an even crazier number after this. But 74.3% of his dropbacks, Utah blitzed. And Sorsby was 6 for 24 when he was blitzed. So if you can get them, the hard part, though, is getting them in that position, right? Because if they're getting 6 or 7 yards per carry, they're going to be in what we call 3rd and manageable, right? Or 3rd and short. And you will not be able to unleash the hounds if you're Danny Gonzalez, right? You're going to have to respect the run in those situations. So that's sort of the ideal game plan. Whether Arizona can actually pull it off remains to be seen. You mentioned that Cincinnati's defense is it's okay.
Yeah.
Right. It has not statistically at least been as good as Arizona's. This is the stat that just blew me away. They had, according to PFF, 29 missed tackles against Utah.
Whoa.
Which, if you track this sort of thing, is a crazy big number. Like Arizona had 12 missed tackles against Kansas, which for them is kind of high, honestly. Like you want that number to maybe be around 10 per game.
Yeah.
29 is just nuts. And yeah, right. That's in the previous 3 games, Cincinnati had 22 total missed tackles. So you can imagine they spent a lot of time during their bye week working on tackling and fundamentals and all of those types of things. Seth Dagey compared their defensive structure to that of Iowa State. And that was Arizona's worst offensive performance of the season, at least in terms of scoring. They had no yak in that game at all.
No.
So, maybe it helps that they saw something like this previously, right? And they kind of know, hey, maybe we can't do what we did against Iowa State. We need to do something different.
But Iowa State also, in my opinion, when healthy, maybe the best secondary in the Big 12.
When healthy, which they were not for that game, and they still did pretty well. Yeah.
They were a little bit injured, and they still did very well. Again, Cincinnati, they have good DBs, but as far as comparing them to Iowa State, I think Iowa State has the nod in that category. But that 3-3-5 defense. I mean, is it Jake Goldray? What's their badass linebacker's name? Golday. He gets in the backfield. He blitzes as well. He leads the team in sacks. And, I think, maybe Kansas gave Cincinnati somewhat a blueprint to attack Arizona. Look at how much Kansas put pressure on Noah Fafita. So I expect both quarterbacks to get blitzed.
It's Jake Golday. He has 80 tackles and 3.5 tackles for loss this season, 2 passes defensed, a forced fumble. He's someone who's going to, as they say, play on Sundays.
Yeah.
Over there from Cincinnati. This is your first time going to Cincinnati?
Justin? Yeah, my first time going to Ohio, period.
Oh, wow. Okay.
In November, but I'm very happy that the weather is going to actually warm up. Right now, or earlier this week, it was like in the 20s. I was looking at that weather in Cincy, and I was like, oh boy, this is going to be a very, very chilly one.
Oh, you got a freaking perfect day. 69 and cloudy.
Yes. It's a nice day, man. That's a nice day. So, I think that the weather is going to be pristine for this game. I'm also excited about Skyline Chili. I'll tell you what. Apparently they have this thing called 3-way, 4-way, or 5-way, and you can really load it up with beans and onions. And so that's going to be my This Ain't Tucson, my food review for the week, trying the world famous Skyline Chili. But going back to the game, Lev, I mean, we talked about Brendan Sorsby. We've talked about Cyrus Allen a little bit. Is there anybody else that you're really interested in watching? And why is it The Godfather? Dante Corleone.
Yeah, this is like another similarity between Cincinnati and Iowa State, right? Like Iowa State has Dominic Orange, right? The big citrus.
Yeah, big citrus.
Middle of their defense. And Cincinnati has Dante Corleone, who is like one of those guys where if you're Cincinnati, you're like so happy this guy decided to come back to school for another year. Just a huge body clogging up the middle of that defense, or clogging up whatever you're trying to do on offense. I think you mentioned Joe Royer earlier, who's their tight end. That's another guy I'm keeping an eye on because he's just another one of those big bodies. He's listed at 6'5", 240. He looks bigger than that. Like he looks taller.
Didn't Danny Gonzalez say
play? Very athletic. 6'7"? Did you say 6'7"?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Mentioning 69 degrees and 6'7", man. We're checking off all the boxes.
Yeah, still don't know what that means. But I think he was comparing him to Houston's tight end, whose name is escaping me now, who is 6'7" and scored a touchdown against the Wildcats. I'm gonna look it up.
Okay. I think you're talking about Benjamin Bramer.
Tanner. That was Tanner Koziel.
Tanner Koziel,
yeah. So, I mean, those guys are just always tough matchups for anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're like that tall and you can move and you can catch the ball, you can box out, difficult assignment. And, Traden Stukes, you think maybe he's someone who might cover a tight end, but usually he's on a wide receiver, maybe a slot. It's more of a Dalton Johnson type of assignment. Dalton has been playing extremely well. So has Traden. Those guys, I called them the heart and soul of the defense after this last game when they combined for 5 passes defense. And I think it's true. Yeah. Right. I mean, those guys I hope we get to talk to them heading into senior day or senior night, because those guys have been here forever.
Yeah.
And they've stuck it out through multiple coaching changes and all, the birth of the transfer portal and NIL and all that stuff. And they decided to stay at Arizona.
Yeah.
And I think they will be looked upon very fondly as Wildcats for life when they're done playing here.
Well, and Stukes especially, man, because he's the oldest out of all those guys. Like he was the one that could, I mean, realistically, Stukes could actually write a book about his time at Arizona. I mean, heck, his father writes books. His father is an author and has published books. So maybe Traden can follow his father.
Yeah, Traden he's a reader too, right?
Oh, big time bookworm. Yeah.
He told us that, which, you just don't see very often these days. I myself struggle to sit down with a book sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
It's just so easy to sit down with your phone instead.
Well, I
The
mean, we
guy
also
that
read on a daily
we
basis.
do.
Just
Yes,
like
we
we're
do
just
read a
consuming
lot.
so much news.
It's
Yeah,
a
people
different.
people ask me that all the time. They're like, "Do you read?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'll probably read a book like once a year, maybe
I
2
know
books a year."
we're like reading constantly. It's just
Yeah,
a different form of reading.
yeah,
But yeah, Traden is the one that they call Unk because he's kind of the old head. He's in his 6th year in college, because he got hurt last year, and he is Arizona's highest rated defensive player on the season. There is actually one player who's higher rated, John O'Price, but it doesn't really have enough snaps, to kind of qualify. I go kind of 10 snaps per game, so you'd have to have 90 at this point, and John O is a little bit under that. But some really intriguing matchups in this game, and a big test. I mean, Cincinnati is ranked. They snuck into the top 25 in the latest CFP rankings at number 25. I had them 23rd in my AP ballot. So legit opponent, and I think a big kind of psychological motivational test for Arizona. Because this is the type of game where there's no clear motivation. It's not a rivalry. It's like you just came off of clinching the bowl berth. Next week is homecoming. ASU's on the horizon. Are they going to show up for this game? And I think they will. Whether they're going to win, that remains to be seen. And we will reveal that later in the podcast.
So what you're saying is you want to see if they have red line for this game.
I do. This is, hey, you know what?
It's a red line game.
I'm going to give you a headline right here, Justin. Red line versus skyline.
Oh man, that's why they pay the big
boom, boom,
man.
Just give that to our editor, Alexis, right now. Just say, I'll just write. Here's the headline, and I will write off of this headline. Just stick that on the top of the sports page of the Arizona Daily Star.
Red line versus skyline. That's amazing. Oh man, have you been to Cincinnati before, Lev?
I have, but it was a really long time ago. I can barely. You know what? Okay. You probably remember this. I went to, when I was covering the NFL, I covered this crazy Chiefs Colts game where I think it was Andrew Luck was the quarterback. They had this epic comeback in the playoffs. And then I drove from Indianapolis down to Cincinnati for Chargers Bengals in the playoffs.
Oh.
And I want to say this was probably like 2012 or 2013, somewhere in there. And the Chargers lost. And this was when this giant like winter storm was coming. Through the Midwest. And it had a funny name, and I can't think of what the name of it is now. But it was like one of these, like, you can't go outside for several days, like that, that cold, etc. And I'm like, I gotta get out of here. Like, I can't be stuck here, which is a concern of yours as well, with the situation going on with the air traffic controllers and all that. So I remember, like, after I had filed my story from Cincinnati, like being on the phone with like American Airlines for like 2 hours trying to get on a plane to get out of Dodge. And I got like the last seat on a flight out of Cincinnati and just beat this snowstorm to get back home to California. So,
wow.
So yeah, it's been a minute since I've been to Cincinnati, but it's one of these towns in the Big 12 that, I mean, they're new to the Big 12, but they're kind of a pro sports town.
Yeah.
More so, right? I mean, the Reds have obviously been there forever. Won, some of the most famous teams and players of all time.
Shout out
the
to
Bengals. T.O., sure. Chad Johnson. For the Bengals.
Yeah.
Boomer Esiason. Currently.
Garrett Brightwell.
Sure.
Tanner McLaughlin.
Tanner. Yeah, where's Tanner? Is Tanner in the CFL now?
I don't. Maybe. I mean, he is Canadian, so that makes sense.
Yeah, I know he was drafted up there, but obviously they're hoping to get Joe Burrow back soon. But the Bengals are huge. Cincinnati basketball has been pretty successful, and football they've had a bounce back season in a big way under Scott Satterfield, who was a coach on the hot seat, to be sure. heading into the season. Like he was one of those guys similar to Brent Brennan. Now both of those guys are looking pretty safe and feeling pretty good about things. Cincinnati has to win against Arizona to have a chance to get into the Big 12 title game. They've got BYU next week. Maybe we'll get the answer to the question of who's actually better when the two of them face each other.
Yeah.
But they can't afford to stumble. They can't afford to have that like look ahead game or whatever, which is, I don't know, it's conceivable. People don't get like that crazy excited about Arizona coming to town like they would against BYU. So I guess we'll see how they come out for this one from a mental standpoint.
When I found this interesting when I started looking more into Cincinnati. I mean, they haven't had a winning season since 2022. So this is their first winning season. It's been a few years since they've been, on the winning side of things. And, now that Scott Satterfield has them in a really good spot, football has kind of taken over as like the most talked about and most like exciting, buzzing sport for the Bearcats. And it's always been basketball, right? Because of Bob Huggins, right? And also Mick Cronin as well, our guy who's going to be coaching against Arizona this week when UCLA meets against Arizona in men's basketball in Los Angeles. Mick Cronin maintained the legacy of Cincinnati basketball. And so go ahead.
Yeah, so there have been some famous alums from the Cincinnati football program. Do you think you'll have you think you'll have a Kelsey sighting?
Yeah, maybe
on Saturday. Is this possible?
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Taylor Swift at an Arizona football game. It's possible. Like it's a there's a non-0% chance that Taylor Swift is going to see the Arizona Wildcats play football.
What is more likely to happen? Taylor Swift goes to an Arizona football game this season, or LeBron James goes to an Arizona basketball game this season? Which is more likely?
I say the former. Really? I mean, because like because Bryce realistically he's going to redshirt this year.
Mm-hmm.
So LeBron's gonna be like, yeah, I'm going to go watch my son sit on the bench. Just because,
Cincinnati also has had some pretty like well-known coaches. Starting in 2004, Mark D'Antonio, Brian Kelly, Butch Jones, Tommy Tuberville, whom I believe coached Seth Doege.
He did.
Isn't that true? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Luke Fickell, who, parlayed that into a job at Wisconsin, where he's been a total flop to everyone's great surprise. No one saw that coming. They had that year in 2021 where they went 13-1, made the playoff, the smaller version of the playoff. Then Scott Satterfield comes over from Louisville, goes 3-9 his first year, then 5-7, and now they're 7-2. So seemingly in a good spot.
And I asked Scott Springer from the Cincinnati Enquirer.
Yeah.
We had a Q&A. It's part of that conversation is posted on Tucson.com and the Wildcaster app. I didn't get a chance to put all of it in, but there is another mutual connection between Arizona and Cincinnati on the basketball floor. And that's Kirk Kriisa, starting point guard for the Bearcats. And he will be coming to McHale Center this year.
Man.
Which I cannot wait for. And he's now the starting point guard because Edgerrin James's kid got kicked off the team. Jizzle James. And
so this is his fourth school. Fourth school, because he was at Kentucky and West Virginia, right?
Yeah.
And Arizona, and his 6th year of college.
Yeah.
And I believe our colleague Bruce Pascoe wrote that he might be able to pursue a 7th year of college, which I feel like if that's true, he should just transfer somewhere else so he can play for 5 schools over 7 years. I'm not sure anyone has ever done that before. They'll call it the Kriisa. If someone does that in the future.
If you become a journeyman. Oh, dude, he's a Kriisa. You don't want to be a Kriisa, man. You need to find one place to be at.
Isn't it funny how you can apply the term journeyman to college athletes now?
Yeah.
I mean, that used to be sort of like a negative term for like pro athletes, but like Max Harris, we love Max Harris. Like tough dude, great kid, 4 schools in 4 years, right? But he's kind of, but in his case, he's kind of like moved up, like every year, right? It's not like he's just making lateral moves. He's sort of, improved his lot in life.
But I'm curious to hear what you have to say about this, Lev. So I asked Scott about like the Mount Rushmore of Cincinnati athletics, player wise, not coach wise. And his answer was the Big O, Oscar Robertson.
Okay, that makes sense.
Kenyon Martin.
Yeah, he was superstar. Yep.
Yeah. And then both Kelsey brothers.
Okay. Yeah.
I think it's pretty solid.
That sounds reasonable. I mean, I don't
Because
have
like the Kelsey bros are like arguably the best at their position. Arguably,
Yeah.
I think Gronkowski's the best tight end of all time, but you can make an argument for Travis Kelce. You can certainly make an argument for Jason Kelce is the best center of all time. So yeah, really good alumni group.
You know, we did the Big 12 Blitz.
Yeah.
Remember this? I did mine. I was Cincinnati. That was my assignment. I'm trying to see if we did any. I feel like we did like stuff like, famous alums and things of this nature, but I can't find it right
Lance
now.
Stevenson. I remember Arizona was in a recruiting battle with Lance Stevenson.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. It was like Sean Miller's first year, and Lance Stevenson was strongly considering Arizona and then ended up going to the Natty.
Yeah, we did. I know we did little charts, but it's not showing up here as an attachment to the story. So, so I don't have that information right in front of me. But I do feel like Cincinnati, and I know West Virginia is actually farther east, but Cincinnati and UCF, it feels like they're just kind of off doing their own thing.
Yeah.
In a way, like they're like satellite programs or something.
Yeah.
Just because of geography. We don't talk about them that much. But I think we'll see a good like representative brand of football from the Bearcats on Saturday. They only have 2 losses. The first one was against Nebraska and the first game of the season in a technical neutral site game. That was
Speaking of Taylor Swift.
Yeah, exactly. Well, she has seen, I believe she was there.
Yeah, she was.
Right. So she has seen Cincinnati play.
That was their first public appearance after their engagement. Was a Cincinnati football game. I'm like, how can you not be romantic about college football?
That was a neutral site game at Arrowhead, which was like 98% Nebraska fans.
Yeah.
And they only lost by 3. I mean, super competitive game. And then their most recent game 2 weeks ago against Utah, which everyone who goes to Utah at night just gets trucked. Yeah. So, I am not surprised that was the outcome of that game. They're probably their best win this year. They won at Kansas by 3. So it's a similar result. They beat Iowa State. And Iowa State was ranked at the time. Remember, Cincinnati was favored. And it turned out to be right because they ended up winning 38-30. They were up big in the first half on that game. It kind of had to hang on at the end, but, win's a win. As Arizona showed.
Win's a win.
Against Kansas this last week. Doesn't really matter how you do it as long as you get it done.
Yes, sir. Well, let's hope there's more winning for Big 12 Bonanza.
Oof.
We've got the legend himself, Jordan Hamm from Sports 360 AZ, joining us here for Big 12 Bonanza, or as I like to call the NFC South of Big 12 Pick'ems. Good to see you, Jordan.
I've been calling it Big 12, bruh. It's been a rough go for the 3 of us the past week or 2.
Big 12 bewilderment, Big 12 befuddlement, Big 12 blurg. Would you like to hear some of the ugly numbers here, fellas?
Let's do it. Let's lean into it.
So Justin, he was leading the way, right? Against the spread. He's the only guy above 500, kind of on a roll. Went 5-2 in week 9. Well, he went 1-6 in week 10, 0-5 last week, Justin. Ouch.
1-11 against the spread.
Ouch. 1-11 the last 2 weeks. So Justin has come back to the pack. He's 36-42.
Welcome.
Jordan and I were both 2-3. And the way things have been going for me, I view 2 and 3 as a good week over here at LevCorp. So I'm 32-46. Jordan is 38-40. We're all now in first place at 38-40. So we're all under 500. All still have a shot at this thing. Straight up, Jordy and I are both 52-26 after going 3-2 last week. Justin was 2-3. So he is 53-25, a 1-game lead in that category. What do you guys have to say for yourselves after hearing those illustrious statistics and records and whatnot? No spears of wisdom.
No, you can't have a spear of wisdom when you're 1-11 against the spread. So the spear of wisdom, fade Spears. That is the spear of wisdom.
Fade Spears. I like it. Yep.
Fade Spears. Make it a hashtag.
I will happily take a trophy that just says by default and then a first place. Slightly worse than the other two.
The NFC South, man.
Okay. Well, all we can do is get back on the saddle, right? And give it another crack here. Keep doing our thing and trust the process. As I like to say, as many like to say, we will of course skip the Arizona-Cincinnati game, which is in the 10 a.m. MST window for the end. There is one other game in that 10 a.m. slot. And that is Kansas State at Oklahoma State. And this game is on ESPNU. Kansas State is favored by 20.5 points in this contest. Kansas State's fighting for bowl eligibility. A very disappointing season for them so far. They are 4-5. Not what anyone was expecting. Their last game was a 43-20 loss to Texas Tech. They need to go 2-1 over the final stretch here. I think Oklahoma State at Utah versus Colorado, it's doable for sure. Yeah. Consolation prize for them doesn't hit the same way as Arizona getting to that 6th win, right? If Kansas State barely makes it because of how well they've done lately. Oklahoma State, they went 0-9 last year, and they are 3 games away from doing it again. And I don't know when. I have no idea the last time something like that happened to anyone, going 0-9 in conference 2 years in a row. Yikes. And they finish after this at UCF and at home against Iowa State. So I don't know, some winnable games, but they haven't really been super competitive against anybody. There is a little bit of news from this game while we were away last week. While Kansas State was off, Dylan Edwards decided to go into the portal, redshirt, banged up, injury-prone season for the star running back, and he is no longer part of the Kansas State program. I initially had Kansas State down, and then I looked at my list and felt like I had way too many favorites. So I'm going to take Oklahoma State with the 20.5 points. It's basically because Kansas State doesn't score like a crazy. They're one of the lower scoring teams in the league. For them to, score enough to win by 3 touchdowns might be a bit of a stretch. So it's kind of a ugly, low scoring game. Kansas State wins by 17. Hey, they can win by 20. That would be totally fine. Because in that case, Oklahoma State would cover the 20.5. What do you guys think?
Exactly. Like I think Kansas State is in that 20 to potentially getting upset range. If this game was in Manhattan, Kansas, I'd say lay the points, take the Wildcats by a gazillion. Avery Johnson, even though they did get just completely waxed by Texas Tech, they were able to get him going with his legs. Now, how much of that was him running for dear life and just coming up with some big time plays? I don't know how many of those were design runs, but he did have 88 rushing yards. He did have 2 rushing touchdowns. That's what Kansas State needs to do more often with Avery Johnson. And I think against the downtrodden Oklahoma State team, this is the feel-good game for Avery Johnson in that Kansas State offense, even without Dylan Edwards, who I think is going to earn a bag and be a big-time football player next year somewhere, like at an SEC school or somewhere that's going to pay him well. But, I just feel like Kansas State, they'll get right this game, but I think Oklahoma State will keep it close and cover. And I think really the best thing to come out of Oklahoma State this year has to be the shirtless section. And, I mean, what's better than this? Guys being dudes, right? Like, this guy was just bet $10. Like, hey, I bet you $10 if you go up there in this section and just wave your shirt around. And he took the $10, and all of a sudden he was doing it, and the section grew and grew and grew. And then it became this
and now phenomenon. It's a movement.
It became this phenomenon in college football. Like I saw it up close in person. in Boulder, Colorado, and I'm like, man, it is nippy outside. And these guys are shirtless, waving them shirts around, going crazy because, hey, their team is getting killed 52-17. You might as well try to have some fun with it, right? Arizona football, the crowd wasn't that good for homecoming, but you know what? In the little pocket of sunshine in section 201 on the northeast side of Arizona Stadium, a bunch of dudes that were up there waving their shirts, and you know what? They brought some energy into Arizona Stadium. So big shirtless section guy. I'm a big fan of that. But with that being said, Oklahoma State loses.
I offered Justin $10 to go and join that shirtless section. He turned me down.
Well, whoever ends up getting last in Big 12 Bonanza, do they have to go start as shirtless?
Oh, Lord. No. Wow. I am very incentivized to not finish last.
Oh, man.
I'm just throwing ideas out here, boys.
I love that.
And here's another question. For it to be a true, and I think I know some other teams and other conferences have done it, but this feels like a pretty distinct Big 12 thing. Like the Big 12 teams have fully embraced it. For it to be that tried and true Big 12 experience, does it have to be up in the upper deck where it's happening, or can it be in the lower bowl? I feel like one of the benchmarks is it's in a section no one's really in, and then it's
you're right.
Like a flash mob of people that congregate.
It should definitely be somewhere where there aren't a lot of, where it starts out empty. Yeah. And then it's like a couple guys and then more guys and more guys. So that makes for a better visual, to be sure. Okay. I don't think it matters how cold it is, because they're exercising like the whole time.
Yeah, the blood is flowing.
Yeah.
The blood is flowing. And you got the camaraderie around you, friendship, just all that. I'm gonna go I think Kansas State's gonna cover. I'm gonna go with I feel like the more I watch Kansas State and the more I bet against Oklahoma State, the less I know about them. The data points just are not providing me more information. I'm just more confused by them. So that does seem like a very big number, but I feel like this could just be a game where Avery Johnson goes off and, just kind of that get right game here before the last stretch of the season. Both teams are coming off a bye, so I don't know that one is more beneficial than the other. So I'll take the Wildcats here. All right.
11 a.m. window, TNT, West Virginia at Arizona State.
What happened to Khalil, Lev?
Justin is already going there. West Virginia, we've got favored by 11.5 when I sent the picks out. I'm sorry. Arizona State is favored by 11.5. West Virginia is getting 11.5. I'm first going to turn it over to Justin to reenact what happened the last time Rich Rodriguez set foot in the arena formerly known as Sun Devil Stadium. And then I'll turn it over to Jordy after that for a little ASU update. But what happened that afternoon/evening up there in Tempe, Justin?
Last time Arizona played against ASU with Rich Rodriguez as their coach, Khalil Tate got hurt. And then
hold on. He didn't get hurt. He got hurt.
If we had higher production quality, we could actually play the audio for you. But Justin could just recreate. The whole thing.
So I'm sorry, I'm getting out of the way.
Let's see.
So Khalil got hurt, left the game, and then got back into the game. And Lev, like everybody else, asked him, like, what happened to Khalil? And Rich Rodriguez said he got hurt. And then Lev was like, I mean, he was out and then got back in. Was it more like a questionable thing? And then Rich was like, let's see. He got hurt. Couldn't go. See, the other guy went. And then gave this facial expression, like, hello, Lev. Like, what do you mean? What happened? Is it a questionable thing? And then, it kind of avalanched for Arizona. It just turned into kind of a big shitstorm for them in the third quarter. And then and Lev asked about the third quarter and just kind of keeping the composure. And then Rich Rodriguez said, just play. God, just play. We're a Division I team. We can't punt. We can't catch the snap and punt the ball. I mean, it's unfathomable. I mean, kids are trying, but just remarkable.
The kids are trying at the end.
and Mike Ostie, who covers West Virginia, he said it, he quote tweeted it and was like, you can see the devil and the angel on Rich Rod's shoulders. Just go in and just scold these kids like you normally do, But then you also have to understand that they're college athletes and the kids are trying. So, that was a press conference moment I'll never forget. I learned a lot that day from my guy, Michael Lev, keeping your composure, even when the coach is just like this close to just losing it and crashing
out. Get on your
So,
heels. Just keep shooting.
Jenny, and he was even keeled. So Lev, kudos to you for being a pros pro as always. A press conference moment I will never forget.
What year on the beat was that, Lev?
That would be year 2.
Two.
Okay. Year 2. My first full season was 2016, which was kind of a disaster of a year.
Got it.
They had a gazillion injuries. And they finished 3-9, but they did win the Territorial Cup at the end of the season. That game where they rushed for like 500 yards.
Was that Brandon Dawkins?
Yeah, it was Brandon Dawkins. Yeah, they didn't pass the ball
a
single time in the second half against ASU, which, there's something special about that when you can do that to your rival. Yeah. But anyway, this year's ASU team, as we know, Sam Levitt is out for the season. Jeff Sims came in against Iowa State and looked like Khalil Tate in that game, rushing for 228 yards and 2 touchdowns. My question for you, Jordan, is your namesake, Jordan Tyson, going to be back for this game?
Kenny Dillingham announced on Wednesday morning that he will not play. He will be out. And he had always kind of said, like, West Virginia game was a little bit iffy, but Colorado, the timeline seems to be lining up. But he did confirm it before the Wednesday injury report came out that Jordan Tyson will indeed be out this week.
Yeah, and there's some other injury news from Arizona State this week, sort of pseudo news, right? About Alford.
Yes. Gosh, that was this week. Holy smokes. We are in the thick of football where I was like, that was like 10 days ago. No, yes. So Alford, who has been out, he's been out since camp. Heart and soul of that defense, was a all Big 12 selection last year. He will not be returning for the duration of this year due to injury. Just really tough situation for him. He's one of those guys that was deemed ineligible because he was a 2-time transfer before he graduated, so had to sit out. And then about 6 months after he got deemed ineligible, they changed that rule, and he really just kind of stuck with the program and did some great things for them last year. So from a football sense, they are used to not having him on the field, but I think there was also some optimism that, hey, maybe they can get him for the last couple games and, continue to provide a boost. And, he's so well liked in this ASU community. So that was a little bit of a gut punch as well.
So no Alford, no Jordan Tyson, no Sam Levitt. But you know what? None of that impacts ASU's ability to stop the run. They are number 2 in the Big 12 in run defense, and that is priority number 1 against a Rich Rod offense. Scotty Fox started to look a little bit like a freshman last week, threw a couple of picks. They did end up defeating Colorado 29-22, second win in a row for West Virginia. They are still alive for a bowl berth, but I know this feels to me like young team going across the country against an ASU team that's always well coached. This feels like a Kenny Dillingham special to me. Like he's going to come up with a scheme. He's going to come up with some sort of motivational slogan that he will reveal after the game that inspired them to not only beat West Virginia, but cover the 11.5 points. I'm taking the Sun Devils.
Jordan, any Rich Rodriguez staffers on ASU? Charlie Regal is, I know he's out for personal absence.
And it is interesting because Kenny, I think it was even last week he talked about it. Kenny talked a lot about how Todd Graham and Mike Norvell would welcome him into ASU coaches meetings when he was a high school coach. It sounds like Rich Rod did that at U of A, and I have a feeling that was when Regal made the move down there, that was kind of the connection point. Okay. But yeah, I don't know that there's a ton of either West Virginia or Rich Rod crossover with the ASU coaching staff.
Okay. Because I know Vince Amy, he was up there for a little bit, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. He's, I think his role is technically assistant D-line coach. So he's still on the staff over there. So yeah, I guess he would be one of them. But yeah, he's helping out on the D-line.
So I think that, ASU, I despite the injuries, I think they win this game. I do like West Virginia and where they're heading with their younger players like Scotty Fox. Yeah, he threw a couple of picks, kind of looked like a freshman, but I feel like the more game reps that he gets, the better he is. And I feel like on the road, you're going to see a better version of Scotty Fox. I'm also a big fan of their freshman running back, Dior Hubbard, who was up for Big 12 Freshman of the Week last week. So I like that 1-2 punch of Scotty Fox and Dior Hubbard, but against an ASU team on the road in Tempe, I feel like the Sun Devils get it done. They win and cover.
I'm really intrigued to see how this team comes out. On Monday, Kenny mentioned this has been a team that has struggled with success. And they bounce back great after a loss or a bad performance. But it feels like they haven't quite hit that stride where it's like they are just stacking wins and, all phases are playing really well. Usually it's one side that's carrying the other, that sort of thing. They have that great win at Iowa State coming off the bye. They're trying to get a little bit more healthy. I'm going to go with ASU wins, but West Virginia covers. This just feels like a team that is always going to just be kind of playing close games. And I think West Virginia is kind of starting to put it together a little bit. Like you said, maybe not enough to win it, but to go ahead and make it a competitive game. But I think the defense is going to play really well for ASU, and we'll see how they're able to continue to transform this offense to fit what Jeff Sims does really well, because they did a great job really adopting that power run. But Kenny Dillingham, Marcus Arroyo, basically any offensive staffer will tell you we don't want to run our quarterback 28 times like they had to against Iowa State. So how can they build that out, protect him a little bit more? Raleek Brown is having a great year as well, but this is also quite a big workload that he's taken on as well. So how can they manage all those guys here in the last month of the season?
All right, moving on to our next game. This would be UCF at Texas Tech. This game is at 1:30 p.m. It's on Fox. Game's in Lubbock. Texas Tech is favored by 24.5. I got to say, guys, when I turned on game day this last Saturday, I immediately regretted my BYU pick for that game, because it was like, there is no way that BYU is going to overcome this atmosphere, right? Which makes you wonder, will there be a letdown a little bit here for Texas Tech coming off all that hype, huge matchup, game day in town, etc.? Will they be able to kind of match the intensity, the buzz? And probably not. So that sort of has me leaning in the UCF direction here with the 24.5 points. But I'm going to put a caveat on this, if you guys will allow. Taven Jackson, the starting quarterback for UCF, he is questionable for this game. We don't know his status as we're recording this. So I'm going to take UCF with the points. But if it is determined before Friday, when I post the sort of online version of Big 12 Bonanza, if it is determined that Taven Jackson is out, I'm going to switch my pick, if that's okay with you guys. And I will allow you to do the same if you want.
No, man, you made your bet. On the bookie, you made your bet.
So I'm locked in.
No, you're not locked in.
So at the end of that game against Houston, with the space game that UCF lost, they're kind of driving, or they had a chance to tie the game or take the lead, and Taven Jackson comes out. They're like, what the heck is going on here? And they bring in someone who began the season as the fourth-string quarterback, Davy Belfort, who is actually from Sao Paulo, Brazil. I don't know how many Brazilian-born quarterbacks there have ever been in the history of college football or the NFL. I'm guessing not very many. And he looked like a really good runner, but man, anytime he dropped back to throw, it was kind of an adventure. So I feel like if they have to start like this totally unproven redshirt freshman, they're probably not going to score a single point down in Lubbock. So that's why I'm kind of hedging my bets here. Assuming Taven Jackson plays, give me UCF with the points. Texas Tech will win either way.
Man, regardless of Taven Jackson's status, one thing I look at, ever since Texas Tech lost that game a few weeks ago, they've outscored their opponents 114-7 the last few weeks. That's why I'm going to pick them to win and cover. This is now an opportunity for like Texas Tech to kind of like win with style points here. Cause I mean, 100%. they're going to end the season with 2 cupcakes by the Big 12 standards. Right. And then just kind of sprint their way through that finish line, get to that Big 12 title game. So yeah,
they have a bye week after this, and then they're at West Virginia, which, Yeah, no,
Oh,
our colleague
man.
Brian Peterson is insistent that Rich Rod is going to mess up their season. I'm like, I don't think so, dude. Like Texas Tech's defense travels, right?
Yep.
So it'll travel to Morgantown. But what you got, Jordy?
Texas Tech in their home games, they've won every single one by at least 22 points. So I am going to go ahead and take the Red Raiders to cover.
All right, that makes sense. Our 5:00 game is Utah against Baylor. This game is in Waco. It's on ESPN2. Utah is favored on the road by 8.5 points. So I have tried really hard to come up with a reason to take Baylor in this game. But then I just started looking at Utah, and man, they are so solid. Like, you take that one game out against Texas Tech, rough day for them. I mean, their only loss was by 3 points at BYU. No shame in that. They've actually won 3 games on the road. They won by 33 at UCLA, by 25 at Wyoming, by 34 at West Virginia. So it's not like they've only been good at home, right? They've been good on the road as well. They're second in the league in scoring offense, scoring defense, total defense, behind only Texas Tech. They are first in the league in rushing. Baylor is 15th in the league in run defense. That is a problem. Now, we know Baylor can throw the ball around with Sir Robertson, right? First in the league in passing offense. Well, you know who's number 1 in passing defense? That would be the Utah Utes. Baylor averages 312.7 yards passing per game, and Utah allows 156.8. Not a math major, but that is roughly half of what Baylor usually produces. There's a bunch of other numbers too. They all favor Utah. So despite me searching desperately for a reason to take the dog in this game, I'm going to take the favored, very buttoned up and professional Utah Utes on the road and lay the 8.5 points.
Yeah, I'm all the things that Lev just said. Give me Utah to win and cover. And that's going to make next week very interesting because, Baylor, they're 5-4 right now. They're trying to get to bowl eligibility, and time is running out. You're playing against Utah. You're going on the road and playing against a really good Arizona team that's a few plays away from being 8-1 and being maybe in that conversation for the Big 12 title. So, yeah, I think Baylor right now, they're going to play desperate, and I think they're going to give Arizona their best shot, and Arizona's going to, kind of similar to Kansas, have to earn that win. But I think this week against a really tough Utah team, they don't get it done.
I'm going to go Utah wins, but Baylor against the spread. I think that this will be a close game. It just feels like kind of one of those weird Baylor games that they're kind of known for, especially later in the year. So it might be one of those where, hey, Utah gets out of Waco with a W, and they just escape. So I don't necessarily, it's just, this is kind of one of those just gut picks for me of just Big 12 craziness happens. And I just think Baylor's going to just hang around in this one.
I mean, look, that was my logic last week for Iowa State against TCU, and Iowa State ended up winning that game. They didn't really deserve to win, but hey, good segue. It's TCU and BYU is our last game here before we get to Arizona and Cincinnati. This game is at 8:15 p.m. It's on ESPN. It seems like BYU or Colorado always gets that 8:15 slot, or 7:15 when we're still on daylight savings time. BYU favored by only 4.5 at home, which is a little weird. TCU last week against Iowa State, despite losing the game 20-17, they outgained the Cyclones 432 to 272. They had twice as many first downs, 30-15. Why did they lose? 3 turnovers, and they gave up a punt return touchdown. That is a formula for defeat. TCU is actually 6-3. It doesn't feel like they've had like that kind of a season. They finish at BYU, at Houston, and versus Cincinnati. BYU, as we know, is striving to make the Big 12 championship game and get a rematch with Texas Tech after getting blown out down in Lubbock. They've got TCU at Cincinnati, as mentioned, in their home against UCF. We can talk maybe at the end of the year about how weird these end of season matchups are in the Big 12. Like, can't we do a better job of like kind of finishing with rivalries or pseudo rivalries? Like,
yeah,
TCU Cincinnati and BYU UCF. Like, what? surely we can do better than that. But another topic for another time. I am going to take a BYU in this one. I think that's a really good atmosphere, really good crowd. There could be a little bit of a hangover effect from that Texas Tech game, but Kalani Sitake seems like a very good motivator as a head coach. And even though TCU is pretty good against the run, number 3 in the league, and that's the blueprint against BYU, is if you can stop the run and force Bear Bachmeier to throw in third and long, uncomfortable situations, maybe you have a chance. They were only 3 for 14 on third down against Tech, average to gain 7.1 yards. If TCU can execute that game plan, I think they can keep it close. But 4.5 is just not enough for me. So I'm going to take the Cougars.
Yeah, this game's in Provo, right? Yeah. The last time these two teams played against each other, it was in Fort Worth, and Josh Hoover and company just took it to the Cougars. They won that game 44-11. This time it's in Provo, and I think that BYU is tough across the board. I mean, think about it. The last time they played against each other, LJ Martin was just a youngin' on the come up. They had Chase Roberts, right? Parker Kingston. Those guys were young players that were on the come up. Well, now those guys are veteran players, and they have TCU. It's just kind of like you said, Lev. They're 6-3, but it just kind of seems like they're just flying under the radar. Nobody's really talking about them. TCU has a really, really tough stretch coming up here because not only do they have to play BYU on the road this week, but you got to go on the road the next game against Houston, and then you're at home against Cincinnati. So this is a really tough 3-game stretch for the Horned Frogs. I think they'll win, one of these games, but I don't think it's this week. I'm going to go with BYU to win and cover.
I think that in true Big 12 fashion, TCU is going to play some spoiler here in this last stretch, like we've all just talked about. BYU, Houston, Cincinnati, they rattle off a couple wins, and all of a sudden there's a lot of conversation about who's in the Big 12 championship game. And I think that they are A-okay playing that role where they're on the outside looking in on Big 12 championship, but they can certainly impact some stuff. And I think, hit a nice stride like they did last year. So it's in Provo. It's at night.
Hypno-toad.
Let's go. I'll take the Horned Frogs with the upset.
Man, I love it. Jordy will do that. He gets to go third most of the time, which is a big advantage because he can see what we did. And if you want to win, the competition, it makes sense to go against the other two guys.
And honestly, it's not even really like a strategic move. It's just like, I just kind of want to zag. If you guys are zigging this way, I want to I'll be a little contrarian here.
All right, let's see who's zigging and zagging with the Arizona-Cincinnati game. This is a 10 o'clock Arizona time. This game is on FS1 down there in Cincinnati. And Cincinnati ranked 25th in the nation, favored by 6.5 over the Wildcats. Cincinnati is 5-1 in the Big 12. And they are tied with BYU. And they play each other next week. So, if both teams take care of business, that game likely will determine who the other team is in the Big 12 championship game. Justin and we went over a bunch of numbers earlier in this one, a couple more that I'll mention here. Cincinnati is number 4 in the league in third down conversion percentage, number 1 in fourth down conversion percentage, 10 out of 11. They are tied for third in scrimmage plays of 20 plus yards, which probably is a reason that they lead the league in yards per play. They're also number 2 in red zone offense, touchdown percentage, scoring 74.3% of the time. Arizona's actually been good in that area of keeping people out of the end zone and forcing them to kick field goals. This feels like a spot to me that just doesn't favor the Wildcats. As mentioned earlier, they are coming off a high, right? They clinched bowl eligibility last week. Next week is Senior Day. The following game is the Territorial Cup. What is the motivation in this one, right? How do how do you get this team up to face a very good Cincinnati squad? Weather's not really going to be a huge factor. It should be in the 60s for the game, but you're traveling cross country, facing a team that runs the ball well, has a big mobile quarterback that is not afraid to run it between the tackles. So I'm going to take Cincinnati in this one and lay the 6.5.
Yeah. Brennan Sorsby's the kind of guy where he's going to try to run through you. He is like Connor Wegman's size, but Bear Bachmeier's speed. I mean, he is like almost like a combination of those two quarterbacks. And Jordan, you'll appreciate this. Earlier in the podcast, I compared Bear Bachmeier and Brennan Sorsby to Charmander and Charizard.
Okay.
You feel like Brennan Sorsby's Charizard, right? Like he's older, more polished. Like he's just the better version of Bear Bachmeier, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And so I just feel like on the road in that environment, cross country against a 6'3", 235-pound quarterback who's going to run through you. And between him and the two running backs that they have, Tawi Walker, who I'm sure you probably watched play in high school.
Yeah.
Jordy?
Yeah. I believe it was just his final year he was here, but yeah, I remember watching him over at Centennial.
Wow. Yeah, he's Ralph Amsden reminded me that he knocked out my Cienega Bobcats in the playoffs when he was playing up in Phoenix. Those three guys, Evan Pryor, Tawi Walker, and Brennan Sorsby, they have more rushing yards, just those three guys alone, than the entire Arizona offense. So this is a really good rushing attack. And then you have Cyrus Allen, who leads the league in touchdown catches. Like there's not a weakness. I mean, their tight end as well, Royer. Like they have so many good players. They don't really give up a lot of sacks either. So I don't know, man. The more I think about this game and just the details that it takes to win this game, I think Arizona, they're a much different team, much better team than they were last year. And I think they've learned a lot from those two losses to Houston and BYU. Like they went on the road and just smacked Colorado, didn't even give them a chance, right? And then they gutted out a win against Kansas. So they won in blowout fashion on the road, and then they gutted one out at home against a really good Kansas team. I feel like this team is now starting to learn how to win games. And right now, at this point of the season, that's a positive sign for your club. But Cincinnati, they're just a hungry team right now. They have their sights set on that Big 12 championship. And when you're playing against a hungry team that's really good, that's really hard to do on the road. So I'm going to go with the Bearcats to win by a touchdown. I'll go ahead and say 33-27 type of deal.
I came into this.
Hold on.
No, sorry. 34-27. Sorry.
I was going to say the spread is 6.5.
6.5. Sorry.
So we're taking Cincinnati to win and cover, right?
34-27. Sorry.
Okay. Got you. Just want to make sure. Go ahead, Jordan.
Coming into this, I was going to do the let's get weird game again. But as I am just sitting here and just the more and more I really dig in and the more and more I think about this, the more and more I feel like Sorsby is going to be A1 tough to contain because Justin, you mentioned all those things that he does well. You also didn't mention he's only thrown 2 interceptions all year.
Yeah.
So this is a defense that really can thrive if they're forcing turnovers. And this is a group that doesn't necessarily have all that many turnovers. Prior to his game against Utah, the last time he threw an interception was August 28th, the season opener against Nebraska. So he rattled off 8 games where he didn't turn the ball over or didn't throw a pick at least. So there's that. It was great the way that Arizona gutted out that win last week, but I think there is a real concern of like just the offense disappearing for times and the special teams struggling. And if you're going on the road against a good Cincinnati team, you need one, if not both of those to really, really step up. And I just don't know if that's in the cards for them. I think they can really finish strong this year, but I'll go ahead and take Cincinnati to win. But let's say that U of A keeps it close. So U of A covers, U of A against the spread, but Cincinnati wins outright.
So they could lose this game in two different ways, and I think we would feel totally different about those two ways, right? If they go and it's kind of like same old Arizona and they just get blown out and they don't really show up like we've seen in late season games, like in Pullman, for example, man, that would feel kind of discouraging, right? If they go and lose by 7 or even 10 and they're competitive and it kind of comes down to the end, you're like, okay, like they represented themselves well in this spot where there's no kind of obvious motivation for them. And then I think you'd feel pretty good about their chances against Baylor the next week. So this is not the must-win game. This is not, but I would like to see, just for the sake of the program continuing to take steps forward, that they show up and play hard and play well in a spot where in the past they haven't.
You know, a bearcat is neither a bear nor a cat.
What is it? Just a anamorph? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, some mammal that's based out of Southeast Asia.
So is it like a wolverine or like a badger?
Kind of, I guess. Yeah. So I looked up why is Cincinnati called the Bearcats, and due to
there's a whole thing, yeah.
Due to a 1914 game against the University of Kentucky Wildcats, and a cheer created by Cincinnati fullback Teddy Bayer. There was a chant that went out, said they may be Wildcats, but we have Bearcat on our side. And then from that point forward, they're like, oh, Bearcats. Okay. And they became the Bearcats.
What? You know what? Go ahead.
Just what weird, stupid things are going to happen in our lifetime that 50 years from now stick, where it's like, oh, those are the,
why are they called the 67s?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was about to. Yeah, the San Jose 67s. Yeah, let's do that.
Desert Ghost, perhaps. So earlier I was trying to find. We did the Big 12 Blitz last year, welcoming all the schools to the Big 12. We did like Q&As, and we also did like a rail with like little factoids and stuff. And I figured out how I could actually find mine on Cincinnati. Did you guys know that it was originally known as Cincinnati College and the Medical College of Ohio before becoming the University of Cincinnati in 1870? Fun fact. You asked about kind of the greats, the Mount Rushmore. Well, Urban Meyer went to Cincinnati.
Oh, yeah.
You know who else went to Cincinnati ever so briefly from the world of baseball? This is a good one.
Kevin Youkilis.
That is possible. It wasn't what I was going to say. It's Sandy Koufax.
Oh,
but man, he wasn't, and I don't think he was a baseball player there. He came to UC to play basketball.
Kenny Lofton.
So yeah, I guess Sandy Koufax walked before Kenny Lofton could run. So
run very quickly.
Little Cincinnati, yes, very fast. Yes, Cincinnati fun fact for you.
I love it, man. All right, Arizona versus Cincinnati this weekend, Saturday morning, 10 o'clock on FS1. Jordy, what are your plans for this week?
I will be in Tempe, ASU, West Virginia, but watching the U of A game during pregame. So got some morning football for both sides. Say
hello to Rich Rod for us.
I will.
Love that guy. He's the best.
Well, indeed.
All right. We'll have all the coverage of the Arizona-Cincinnati football game on Tucson.com and the Wildcast mobile app. And per usual, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and comment the Wildcast podcast on Apple and Spotify, and check us out on Tucson.com.